There are stories that light up the night like a meteor streaking across the dark sky. Brief, dazzling, unforgettable. And then, there are legends that refuse to fade, even when the lights go out. This is the story of Dream, the journey of Xiao and Wang Yibo, two souls who collided in art, fame, and destiny, and how one of them took flight into a world of roaring engines, asphalt dreams, and the pulse of freedom. The stage lights dim. A single camera rolls. The set of the Untamed glows like an ancient battlefield, smoke swirling through air heavy with myth and magic. Xiao stands there, the calm center of the storm, eyes reflecting an old soul in a young man's face. Across from him, Wang Yibo, cold, composed, fire beneath the frost. When their eyes meet, something clicks, not just for the cameras but for millions watching. A chemistry no script could command. A connection no director could choreograph. They didn't just play characters. They became them. Wei Wuxian and Lan Wangji were no longer fiction. They were an experience, alive, electric, transcending the screen. That's where the dream began. But dreams, no matter how beautiful, eventually test those who dare to live them. The whirlwind came after the Untamed ended, fame so massive it felt like a tidal wave. Every smile, every silence, every glance became a headline. The world wanted to own them. But fame, it's a strange kind of fire. It warms, it blinds, and if you stay too close for too long, it burns. Zhan chose to retreat, to find a center again, through music, theater, art. Wang Yibo, though, he looked up one morning, eyes sharp as glass, and saw something else calling him. Not the stage, not the spotlight, but the track. Imagine this scene. A racetrack at dawn. Engines growling low, impatient. The smell of fuel and adrenaline. Wang Yibo steps out of the pit, helmet under one arm, hair brushing the wind, eyes locked on the asphalt. Gone is the quiet idol from the stage. What remains is a racer, a man chasing velocity, danger, and something deeper, truth. When he slides into the cockpit, the world narrows into one sound, the heartbeat of an engine. It's not about running from fame. It's about feeling alive again. Every turn, every roar of the tires against the track is a confession. I'm still me, just faster. The world watched, stunned. Could the cool, elegant Wang Yibo, the dancer, actor, singer, really become a racer? He didn't just become one. He conquered. With the Yamaha China racing team, he tore across circuits like a storm given flesh. There were crashes, blood, sweat. But there was also the unmistakable thrill of transformation, of rebirth. Under the helmet, no one knew his fame, his face, or his past. There was just the race. There was just the dream. And as he sped forward, something about him changed. The way he spoke, moved, smiled. There was more silence now, but in that silence was peace. Meanwhile, Xiao was writing his own version of resilience. He returned to music, acting, painting, rebuilding himself from ashes into artistry. While Wang Yibo chased the wind, Xiao painted emotions with his voice. Their paths diverged, but the thread connecting them never broke. It lived quietly, in the hearts of fans who remembered not just their faces, but their fire. Fast forward to the dazzling chaos of variety shows. Bright lights, laughter, rhythm, and charisma. Wang Yibo strides onto the set of Street Dance of China, his entrance cool and calculated. The crowd roars, neon colors flashing around him. And yet, behind the sharp moves and calm smiles, there's that same racer's focus, absolute, unshakable. He doesn't just dance, he commands gravity. Every gesture feels like it's cut from thunder, disciplined, precise, wild only in spirit. His opponents? They don't just see a celebrity. They see a warrior, one who fights with rhythm instead of speed, but with the same hunger. It's then that fans realize racing and dance are not so different. Both are about balance, instinct, and the art of surviving momentum. And Wang Yibo, he doesn't just survive. He dominates. Yet, behind the perfection, there's a whisper of solitude. Fame's shadow never really fades. In interviews, he speaks little, but his eyes tell stories of nights spent under headlights, hands trembling from adrenaline, mind caught between art and asphalt. One night, after a race in Zhuhai, he sits by the pit lane, engine cooling beside him, moon reflecting off his visor. The noise of the crowd fades into nothing. For a moment he smiles. Because here, finally, the world isn't watching. Here, he's just Yibo, a boy who dreamed of freedom and dared to chase it faster than anyone else. And what of Zhan? Far from the engines and circuits, his world hums with color and quiet. He steps onto the stage for the brightest star, his voice trembling not from fear, but from power. Every lyric is a fragment of his soul stitched back together. He's not racing cars, but he's racing himself, every expectation, every wound, every whisper of doubt. The theater lights catch his face, and somewhere in that glow, you can see it. Peace. Not the kind you find in silence, but the kind you earn after a storm. The irony of fame is that it separates what it once united. Zhan and Wang Yibo rarely share the same stage now, but their spirits are intertwined, two halves of a greater story about courage, art, and becoming. Wang Yibo's world spins at 200 kilometers per hour. Zhan's world beats in the slow rhythm of a song. But both are chasing something that can't be measured, the purity of dream. Picture this. A backstage corridor after a variety show. The lights are dim, the crowds roar muffled behind walls. Wang Yibo passes by a monitor showing an ad, Zhan's face calm and smiling, promoting his new project. For a split second, Yibo pauses. The corners of his mouth lift just slightly, that rare, fleeting smile. No words, no drama, just respect. Because somewhere deep down, he knows that dreams don't end. They evolve. In another part of the world, a fan watches a clip of Wang Yibo's race and Zhan's stage performance, back to back. She cries. Not because she misses the Untamed, but because she realizes the truth. Heroes aren't meant to stay frozen in stories. They're meant to keep becoming ailant. The air on set that day felt electric. Not because of lights or cameras, but because two worlds were about to collide. The script of the Untamed lay between them, like a spark waiting to ignite. Zhan, gentle but determined, a perfectionist who believed in quiet strength. Wang Yibo, sharp as a blade, mysterious, confident, hiding storms behind his calm. No one could predict that when these two met, television history would be rewritten. The director called action. And in that instant, something clicked. It wasn't just acting. It was alchemy. The scene was simple. Wei Wuxian laughing carelessly, Lan Wangji watching in silence. But what came through wasn't scripted. It was instinct, connection, truth. The laughter wasn't just from Zhan. It was from the heart of someone who found joy in chaos. The stillness wasn't just from Yibo. It was from someone who found meaning in restraint. Like fire meeting ice, they created a new kind of energy, magnetic, unpredictable, real. The set went silent after the take. Even the crew felt it, that rare, unscripted electricity that happens maybe once in a generation. From that moment, they weren't just co-stars. They were two sides of the same story. As filming went on, their differences began to complement each other. Zhan, patient and kind, often encouraged laughter between scenes, breaking the tension. Wang Yibo, reserved and intense, studied every move, every glance, every word, until it became flawless. One night, during a night shoot, exhaustion hung heavy in the air. They'd been on set for 14 hours straight. The mist machines hissed. The lights flickered. In the quiet between takes, Zhan looked at Wang Yibo and said softly, "Even if no one sees the effort now, one day, they'll understand." Yibo didn't say a word. He just nodded, that small, unreadable smile appearing for a second. But in that moment, respect turned into something deeper, trust. When the Untamed finally aired, no one expected what came next. The world erupted. Their chemistry broke the internet. Fan art, edits, interviews. Everything exploded overnight. People didn't just watch them, they believed them. They saw friendship, loyalty, heartbreak, redemption, all painted in every shared glance, every silent moment. Xiao Zhan's laughter became comfort. Wang Yibo's silence became strength. Together, they built a bond that transcended fiction. And yet, fame can be both a blessing and a storm. The more they shined, the more the world demanded. Fans wanted stories, answers, emotions, more, always more. Their faces were everywhere: posters, magazines, interviews, billboards that lit up cities. But behind the flash and applause was something quieter: exhaustion, pressure, the weight of expectation. One night, after an event, Xiao Zhan looked out from his hotel balcony, city lights reflecting in his eyes. He whispered to himself, "Dreams don't always come gently, do they?" Down the hall, Wang Yibo sat alone, headphones on, scrolling through clips of their show, his expression calm, but thoughtful. He had always been the type to process emotions in silence, to let the storm pass within before speaking it aloud. They were both learning that dreams come with noise, and that peace must be earned. During a fan event, when they appeared side by side again, the crowd screamed so loudly it shook the air. Xiao Zhan waved, smiling warmly, his eyes shining like he was trying to thank every fan in person. Wang Yibo stood beside him, quiet but protective, the steady presence beside the flame. And in that sea of flashing lights and screams, you could sense it again, that unspoken connection. A friendship built not from words, but from endurance. They had walked through sleepless nights, endless retakes, blinding fame, and somehow still stood tall. There's one story few fans know, about a rainy day near the end of filming. It was their last big scene together. The sky poured, thunder echoing through the valley. The crew hesitated, unsure if they could continue. But Yibo, already soaked, said simply, "Let's finish it." Xiao Zhan laughed and followed, water streaming down his face. They filmed through the storm, each take raw and real. By the end, when the director yelled cut, no one clapped. They just stood there, watching these two men drenched in rain, breathing hard, hearts racing. It wasn't just a performance. It was a moment of truth. When they looked at each other after that scene, it wasn't with words of farewell. It was with quiet understanding. Something inside them knew. This story would live forever. And indeed it did. The dream of Xiao Zhan and Wang Yibo became a phenomenon. A symbol of what happens when authenticity meets destiny. They showed the world that acting isn't about fame, it's about feeling. That connection doesn't need words, it needs truth. Behind the bright lights and the roaring applause, they carried the same message in their own ways. Dreams are real, but only if you dare to live them. So when you watch them, Xiao Zhan with his quiet warmth, Wang Yibo with his fierce grace, remember that the magic began in the simplest of moments, a shared scene, a glance, a spark. That spark grew into a fire that still burns today, not because of the roles they played, but because of who they became when the cameras stopped rolling. They didn't just act a dream,